I want to start off with Tim in Arkansas, because you're speaking my language, Tim. These are a lot of experiences that I've had before, but tell us a little bit what's on your mind tonight.
Sure. I just mainly wanted to call in and report my experiences. I just happened to be on the Slack helpline community right before you guys came on air, and so yeah, I was right in the middle of it. It still hangs heavy on my heart to this day, all these years later.
Yeah, just talking about your experiences really with purity culture and the impact they've had on your life.
Yeah, I would go so far as to say that I would directly attribute being raised in the middle of what I was to torture. I think I would choose that word, or terrorism even. It's the abuse of children. It's the indoctrination of fragile, innocent minds. And with the way that I was raised in particular, it's only been in listening to and reading Darrel Ray's books that I've really begun to get some sort of a handle on, hey, this was pretty messed up, what I went through. Seeing a partial birth abortion video before I even kissed a girl, seeing just all of these different things that really turned me off to sex. And today it's, I'm in a pretty asexual place for the moment, and it's relationships. I've never been in a relationship that's been like longer than a month, unless you include an online relationship. And I attribute so much of it to just all of this different stuff where you learn from such a young age that just such a basic, fundamental component of yourself is secret and dirty and sinful and shameful, to borrow from the Mystery Science Theater crew when they talked about it in one of the riffs. It's just so messed up, and I don't know if I'm truly in a better place about this stuff, but at a minimum, I wanted to call in and just say that there are people out there that are absolutely dealing with this stuff. I was in the middle of it, and it's left a lasting toll all these years later.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I'm sorry to hear that, Tim. As you know, you're inside of our community. At RFR, you've heard it from other people too. You're not the only one, are you?
Yeah, well, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to jump on here is, I've never called into a show like this before in my life, and I just wanted to, at a minimum, try to offer some support if I could, to talk about this, and just to maybe free up other people to talk about their own trauma. It's a difficult thing, and what makes it so difficult is when you don't even recognize it as trauma, because it's your normal growing up and no one's ever even told you any different.
Right.
Yeah, having reached that place where you're able to kind of reinterpret your own experiences and notice what was damaging about those stories is really valuable. It can be so hard to denormalize things that everybody around you was also going through. Is there anything that you might highlight for our audience that you've now been able to reinterpret or maybe understand a little bit better and identify as the trauma that it was?
Can you ask that question maybe a different way? I think I understand what you're asking, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah, what is something that you experienced that seemed normal at the time that you now look back and feel really upset about or notice the damage that it caused?
I think one of the shortest answers to that would be that modern American Christianity seems to be obsessed with controlling people's sex lives, literally from birth, from male circumcision to, on a political level, controlling women's bodies, to just so many levels of it. In terms of specifically, I think the thing that really hurts the most is what's been referred to in some books by cult experts that I've read, called bounded choice, which basically means the intentional and willful denial of information that could lead to a person making a more informed decision.
Bounded choice. That's an excellent way to characterize it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you kind of offering your insights and telling us your story. Is there anything else that you wanted to highlight for us before we say goodnight?
I think it would be that I really appreciate what you guys are doing. That was one of the other reasons that I wanted to call in, is I just wanted to personally thank Darrel Ray for the work that he's done and continues to do, because this has been, I think, a splinter in my mind driving me mad my entire life. And the problem is with how group dynamics work. You can very well grow up in this information, just in this culture for years and years and years and years and years, until you're able to somehow get outside of that circle of disinformation and misinformation and lack of information, like through reading a book from a person that's in a group dynamic, like Darrel, that you'd never otherwise maybe see. You have no way to know it. Right. I definitely say you're not alone. I think a lot more people struggle with this trauma than I think we really realize. And I think what's so alarming about it is, like, I think Darrel Ray's book, I think it was The God Virus, but then I went on to read his book about, sex and God, I think it was called. I think what just really hit me was that in all my years of growing up, for all of the education I had received, I had never even once heard the ideas that were presented in there. Not once. Not even to straw man them, I don't think even. Wow. It's just amazing how, it was just like emerging in some ways. It was really like emerging. If you've seen The Village, with M. Night Shyamalan, it's kind of been like that, where it's just like you think you're living a normal life, and then one day you wake up to realize that, like, you've just not been exposed to some very fundamental information.
Right. Wow. Well, thank you for those kind words, Tim. I appreciate that. And I'm glad you're a part of our community, and perhaps you can help other people at the same time. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much. And I hope you have a great rest of your show. Like I said, I just, this topic hits me to my core, just getting made fun of for having a different opinion on this, and just so many different levels of all of this stuff.
Good.
Hey, I appreciate you calling in. You have a great night.
Good night, Tim.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you. Good night.
Yeah, these are big ideas, and they have a really lasting impact. I'm in a relationship now with somebody who, grew up Catholic, and she talks a little bit about that experience, but I think it wasn't until a couple of years of dating that my atheism activism really made sense to her, because when she thought of herself as like, well, yeah, I grew up religious, and like, yeah, he grew up religious, it's taken years of kind of swapping stories and not trying to compete over it, but just expressing like, yeah, that was a thing that happened to like 3 people I knew, or this is something that I experienced every day, for her to really recognize like, oh, right, that's not normal, that's not okay.
Yeah. Something Tim said I really want to underline, and that is that we heard it so much. It's just crazy how often we hear this, that once I left the bubble, the Baptist bubble, the fundamentalist bubble, the Seventh-day Adventist, whatever it was, it was like I had to start all over again, because my level of education was so inadequate. And I don't mean math education. I mean social skills. Understand biology, human biology, human sexuality. It wasn't even that they had no education. It was that they had negative education. Everything they'd learned was the exact opposite of what actually goes on with humans and in our culture.
Yeah, we talked about that with Matt last week, actually. I was 25 before I went on my like actual first date, and I did not know what I was doing. It did not go great.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, that's a little bit more about me than anybody wanted to know. But, it is a challenging thing to overcome. But, I think that the point of Recovering from Religion, of the 2 books that Tim mentioned that you wrote that preceded it, of this show, is to highlight the fact that there is opportunity for healing, that you don't need to stay stuck in any of these things. And we'll certainly talk a little bit more about that at the end of the show, but I don't want to lose or miss out on that thread for anybody listening, that these things are big. The challenges that they create are meaningful, and the experiences that you've had are valid, but that doesn't mean that there isn't tons of opportunity for growth and change.
Right. We wouldn't be here tonight if we didn't believe that.
For sure.